The World Bank has denied a request from El Salvador for technical assistance when it comes to making Bitcoin a legal tender. So they cited environmental concerns and transparency shortcomings as the reasons behind their decisions. I'm going to kick this one right off to you, Ben, because you're smirking over there. What did you think when you read this?
I'm always smirking a little bit. It's how I smile. No, I think this is interesting. It's pretty much, I think, what's to be expected. You know, El Salvador has been working through this process, thinking about how to implement Bitcoin as legal tender in a practical way. And, you know, that has implications with the IMF, with the World Bank and others. And for the World Bank to kind of say, we're not going to wade in and help you set up a decentralized currency as a form of recognized legal tender, I think is, you know, something we could see coming down the pipe. The reasons also cited are ones that we've heard time and time again. Obviously, the environmental story is one that's been in the news, but I thought the transparency one was also kind of a funny note, just because Bitcoin is sort of inherently more transparent than other forms of cash, certainly, and other forms of payments. So that was just something that struck me off the top.
Yeah, Who needs the World Bank when you got Jack Mallers, right? You got Zap, you got Stripe. World Bank, get out of here. The Bitcoiners can figure it out. I'll toss it back up to you, Naomi. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's such a momentous heap of bollocks, right? Is anyone else going to call this out? Like, they're citing environmental concerns as the #1 reason why they're not going to help El Salvador get involved with Bitcoin and set it up. Environmental concerns. Like, I mean, it's so egregiously like a bold lie. Like, it's exactly what Ben said. This is a decentralized currency. They don't want to get involved with this because they don't want to lose, you know, control in that regard. This has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with environmental concerns. And yet we're hearing this environmental narrative everywhere now. Everyone's just on this bandwagon because it's a nice diplomatic way, you know, of shutting something down and creating FUD around it and creating these smear campaigns. It's just smear 2.0. It's the next iteration of all of the FUD that we've had in the past against Bitcoin. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just like, I wonder if anyone is actually believing that this is actually the reason why they're, you know, not wanting to help El Salvador out. Anyway, you know, as you said, Zach, you've got a bunch of people who in the crypto community who are all offering support to El Salvador right now. They don't need, you know, any of these regulatory entities or, you know, bureaucracies to be helping out. Could anyway. So it is just interesting that they did ask them for help and they refused and gave this ridiculous, egregious lie.
I want to see the WhatsApp. I want to see the WhatsApp back and forth between the president and the World Bank, where he just responds to this and he's like, "But
and
volcanoes."
The IMF. Just the emoji.
Right.
Well, that was exactly my thought when I was reading this. I thought, why reach out to the World Bank for technical help when there are so many other entities in the industry who can probably help a lot faster and in a better way. Recently, El Salvador invited, I guess we can call them Bitcoin ambassadors, down to the country.
Or we could not.
Oh, yeah. All right, Ben, what do we call them? What do we call them?
I mean, this is just right. Let's go with that. No, I think like this has just been a frustrating thing that we've been seeing on Twitter. It's sort of, you know, we've seen Brock Pierce, we've seen Peter McCormick just sort of going down and getting these like presidential welcomes and sort of like hashtag Bitcoin delegation. And it's like, what is this? Like, is Bitcoin now a nation state? Like, you know, Ray looks like he got arrested, like somehow, you know, it's just, it's a whole thing that's going around with people kind of purporting to be like ambassadors or delegations of what is a nation state now. It's really confusing to me, and it seems like, you know, just a lot of clout chasing in this regard, and it's unclear what like actual results are coming out of it outside of some of these Twitter posts.
Well, the only cringy one was the Brock Pierce one. I don't think the other ones were too bad. I mean, the Metallica shirt there and Peter McCormick is pretty hilarious. Just
I think Ray talking about being like, you know, if you are a proponent of Bitcoin and kind of against state governments and you're like, oh, wait, but I got greeted like a king. This is really dope. Like, those two things seem to be at odds, in my personal opinion.
That's a fair point.
I'll push back a little bit, although obviously I agree with you, Ben. Governments and Bitcoin kind of antithesis of each other. I will push back a little bit to say that you could implement more freedom in the world by getting the ear of people who, control populations than any other way. You can make as many YouTube videos as you want. You can, try and shout as loudly as you want. You can onboard as many taxi drivers as you can every time you drive. But if you have the ear of someone who controls a nation, and yes, El Salvador is a dictatorship, basically. So, you have the ear of someone like that, you actually can do a tremendous amount of good potentially. So I do not fault these people for going there and trying and saying like, yes, let's figure this out. What I hope from this, though, is that they actually push back on the legislation against the two clauses that are very anti-freedom, and try and find a better way to implement this. If they can get those repealed, I mean, that would be incredible. So I do hope for the best.